Back to the competition now. This is USA 2, driven by Steve Holcomb, Brock Kreitzberg, Rocky Lanz, and Kurt Tomasevicz also in the sled. Holcomb was 4th last week in Eagles, but this week he's driving a different sled.
Eagles isn't as difficult of a track. I'm also in a different sled than I was in last week. I don't particularly like the sled I'm in right now. I like the one I was in last week. Obviously I finished 4th, but it's still a good sled, and I'll drive anything down the track, whatever it takes. If Todd likes that other sled, then hopefully he'll do well his second run, and if hopefully everything will come out right, and I think it'll be a good second run. So I'm happy. Yeah.
That was a great result for Holcomb last week. He's got a couple of football players in the sled with him. John Kreitzberg was an all-conference receiver at the University of Toledo, actually got a tryout with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tomasevicz played linebacker at the University of Nebraska. We talked before about the big guys you need in this sport, and those are two perfect examples.
Explosion and power in that first 50 meters, but then you got to get in, sit down with aerodynamic presence behind the driver, and you got to feel yourself down the course. You got to know where you are. You saw that check sled crash. Well, they always say those guys behind got to be in upper runner pressure. The sleds have a split in them, and you can prevent an accident with that upper runner pressure when you come out on 2 runners. Now, Holcomb's been pretty sloppy up here. He's got a 700s lead in the Bodine sled, but he didn't have that 100 kilometers an hour that you need, which is about 60 miles per hour. Yeah, he's lost his lead. 110.8, 111 or 112 is the good sleds. He's still got a chance here in the bottom. It's 2, but that skid there is going to hurt him. This is going to be pretty close.
There's the combined time for Italy 1 and Holcomb's USA 2 sled by 1/100th of a second. Tuffy Latour and Frank Briglia certainly like what they see there. That is as narrow a margin as you can get in this sport.
Length of your fingernail. They had that skid in the bottom, or they would have won by 10 or 12 hundredths. He was flying down here. He had good speed, good exit of Cristallo. This is like a slingshot effect here. Here's our close-up camera. And you can really fly in the bottom. Now watch this little jump. Sometimes the 2-man sled's got airborne. That's where his skid went. Holcomb with 126 kilometers an hour. That's about 74, 75 miles an hour on the bottom part of that track. He's our leader.
That's all it takes, 100.
That's exactly right. That is all it takes. 1/100th. Back to the top now for Russia 2. Yevgeny Popov is the driver. Alexander Sherbakov, Peter Makarchuk, and Alexei Adrinin in the sled with him. They finished 7th at the Cortina race last year. The first Russian sled we're going to see later, driven by Alexander Zubkov, has overtaken Popov as the #1 sled for Russia.
Well, he won the first ever Russian gold medal in bobsledding last weekend in Innsbruck. 2 silvers the 2 previous races to that. They're driving brand new Singer sleds. Singer is an auto manufacturer auto parts manufacturer that decided to start designing bobsleds, and there's about 25 or 30 sleds on the 2-man, 4-man, and woman circuit. And the Russians bought 6 of them for about 180,000 euros, which is well over $200,000.
How many sled designers are there out there making sleds for World Cup drivers?
There's about 8 different projects that go on, and every once in a while somebody like Audi sneaks in and does some work in the Swiss sleds. A lot of wind tunnel testing. The USA sleds are in Detroit right before they came over to Europe with their new Bodine sled, and that new Bodine sled probably has the best aerodynamic presence of anybody on the circuit. And that's why Hayes has won 2 of the first 3 World Cups of the year. This Russian sled here is flying 4/10. Popov was an up-and-coming driver about 3 years ago before a bad accident in December of 2002 in Altenburg. Wow, half-second lead over Steve Holcomb of the United States. That was a good heat for Russia too.
You saw how close the times